Kia ora koutou. Welcome to HR Chats with me, to Radar, where we chat all things HR and HR related. Today, what a cracker. What a timely conversation we are having. I suspect this may be a conversation that may make many of you just reassess where you are with your lives at this point in time, because we're speaking with Bridgette Jackson, settlement strategist, divorce and separation coach, relationship coach, and CEO of Equal Exes. Kia ora, Bridgette. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much, Radar, for having me on today. Fantastic.
Oh, look, it is wonderful to have you on, because we have seen a lot of talk over the last 12 to 18 months in terms of people reassessing their lives and all of that kind of thing. I'm just looking at the divorce stats. The rates have dropped, so really low levels of divorce. I think 6.2 divorces per 1,000 people. But these days, it says more than 50% of the population are getting divorced or separated.
Yeah.
How do we correlate those two stats? If there's record low numbers, but it seems almost everyone's doing it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, the reason is less people are getting married and more people are in de facto relationships. And particularly the last 2 years or so with COVID hitting, the court's been closed, so only open for urgent applications. And also, obviously, with the multicultural society, people from different ethnicities coming to New Zealand who believe that getting separated or divorced is not available to them with their culture. Those sort of reasons.
Yeah. Now, there were people at this point in the podcast going, "Wait a second," and they're having a look at their phones or devices and thinking, well, I thought we were talking HR. This is not an agony aunt situation. Why is this particularly important in the HR field?
Well, it's very, very important because divorce affects you on a huge amount of levels, not just personally at home. You bring it to work, and it affects you. I went through divorce and separation, and it affected me and my work massively. I was absent from work. There was a lot of presentism going. So in my case, I would be at work, but I would actually not be at work. I wouldn't be functioning. I wouldn't be thinking about work. It affects your productivity. People who go through divorce and separation in the first year leading up to it, and during that first year of separation, productivity decreases by at least 40%.
Right. And we are encouraging people. We've had no end of conversations on this podcast and in the HR field around bringing your entire self to work, and that entire self is very much you and your relationship. As we get into this conversation, what should people be thinking about if they're in this HR field?
They should be absolutely thinking about what programs have they got in place, because from where we see it, there is nobody who has an HR policy that specifically relates to divorce and separation. What we do at Equal Exes is we focus on people as a whole. So across the legal, the parenting, the financial, and wellbeing. Divorce coaching is quite a new area in New Zealand. It's very big in the US, and people really need that support. Really, what we are is we're thinking partners. We hold people's hand as they go through the process, helping people make the best decisions that they can make across those areas that we talked about, in terms of avoiding the mistakes and the pitfalls that many people make as they go through the process. You really want people to be separating with dignity, because when it comes to divorce, particularly high conflict divorce, it can have huge impacts on people.
And this, particularly in the field of employment, we've talked about the absenteeism, the presenteeism. When I'm listening to the conversation here, all I can hear is just a lot of heartbreak and pain, and just a lot of paperwork and legalese and things that not only distract you, but you're required. Lawyers work business hours. So going to see them or to go to family court, there's a lot of time needed away from work as well, and businesses need to be aware of that.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that co-workers productivity goes down as well, because they're having to take up the slack. They're having to be a listening ear. They're having to actually take over parts of their colleagues' roles, and it is a very private matter, but people around them who are close to them know what's going on. And people generally have close relationships with people they work with because they spend so much time there. So they inevitably do talk to talk to their colleagues. There's other issues in terms of people deciding, well, actually I can't work in this job anymore because I can't handle it. There might be childcare issues, so they can't work full time anymore. They might have to relocate to live in some other region. They might have to look for another job because they want a new beginning or a new direction, or in fact they need to find a job that's going to pay them more because now their family is going to be living in 2 households. I mean, it just goes on and on. And also to take into account majorly is every employee that goes through divorce and separation costs an employer approximately 100 grand a year going through separation. So that is massive. That is massive off their bottom line.
What happens, we're thinking about this as in terms of having a partner employed in a business or something like that. What happens when they both are?
When they're both going through separation, you really need to manage this.
They both may well be within the business, perhaps at different levels.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for us, we're a big believer in separating with dignity. So we work with both partners. For us, obviously they need legal advice in the first instance and need their settlement agreements signed off. But there are alternative ways to going to court that this can be dealt with, collaboratively, working together. So in this business, we generally have one of us or two coaches who work with the clients through all of the issues that they have in relation to custody and relationship property. And we're mediators in this business as well. So we can informally mediate any issues for them. And, that saves them so much time, so much money, and lessens the emotional toll. It's massive. We get the positive and sustainable outcomes for people because we want them to be able to walk out of this room and like each other and continue to have a fantastic co-parenting relationship, obviously, if they have children. We don't want people to have any regrets in the way that they act through the process. We really don't. Life is too short to, in my case, it took 5 years to settle, cost me $500,000, and I've got 4 children. And I thought, that's why this business is established. There's got to be a better and a more positive way to do this. There really does.
Yeah. A business like this, you're a little bit like undertakers, aren't you? Everyone's going to die, and it seems everyone is going to fall in love, and it may not necessarily be with the right person or at the right time. And there is, it's not a self-perpetuating machine, but there is no shortage of couples tuning through.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly during COVID times, it's gone up at least 30%. One piece of advice for everybody is that if you're wanting to get into a committed relationship with someone you're in, ask them the 50 questions. We've got a document.
50
questions. Actually, I've added to it, so it's even more.
Oh no. Oh God, no. What's the question that people forget to ask?
Well, what sort of money personality are you? It's a very good one. Someone might be a saver, someone might be a spender, because finance is one of the huge reasons people decide to separate, is because constant arguments over finance and not willing to work together and compromise in terms of their money personalities.
I just tried to sit here now to think how many questions I asked. And I don't even know that it was 5. It was just the vibe of the thing, Bridgette. I'm worried for myself.
I'll send it to you. You the list.
Do you think it's good to be done in retrospect? Is it good?
Yes.
Is it something like this good to actually, if people are in a relationship, to just do a stock take, to do, you have in HR, you do the 360 scenarios and all of that kind of thing. Yes. Is it good for people to sort of sit down and go, okay, so is this working? And if not, what is our point of concentration to try to make this work a little bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. A bit like a warrant of fitness, isn't it? Relationship warrant of fitness, 100%. If there's, on average, it takes people who've got issues in their relationship 6 years to do anything about it. Well, that's by that stage, look, they've come to see me. And I'm certainly not pro-divorce. We work in the space too of should I stay or should I go? So if people are on the fence, we will work through, what do you want to preserve in your relationship? What do you need to negate in your relationship? So, that's really useful for a lot of people. We do parenting plans, how to co-parent effectively, how to communicate with a toxic ex, new beginnings, how to, dealing with conflict resolution, pre-mediation, preparation, coaching, all of that people need. Yeah.
Do you liaise with, say, with their HR departments if people are having an issue? Do you say, hey, look, we can go and have a chat to your business, your workplace, and say, hey, Brian is having a situation, and how can we help him work through this?
Well, we will be. So we're going to be commencing some pilot programs in relation to in the corporate space. And that will certainly be what we're doing, liaising very, very closely, because everybody I see in my practice, it affects their work massively. Some have really great employers who recognize that they need support. And others don't, particularly people who have gone through divorce and separation themselves and know how difficult it is. It's exactly like bereavement. There's a grief process that people go through. So why haven't we got, support in terms of divorce and separation in our corporates? It's vitally important. It's the outcomes that you can get, and we can absolutely help ensure that the productivity for that, in terms of that employee's role, is maintained with that wraparound support. They're able to ring us and text us at any time. We've got a number of different programs that we can, employ depending on people's customized scenario.
Yeah. And, we're talking about some of the outcomes. It can actually be really dangerous for their co-workers as well. If someone is distracted at work, that's really a health and safety issue.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the most difficult things going through divorce and separation is managing your emotions. And, people are all the time in the bathrooms crying. Some people, obviously, there's a huge stigma associated with divorce and separation. So particularly men, we find, don't like to tell anyone and don't need to talk about it, don't want to talk about it. But, it's very common, it seems to be a trend, as we've talked about, and people need that support. They really do. We want people to divorce well. We want them to have a new life, and we want it to be a positive life moving forward. And just like coming back to the car scenario, where do you go if your car breaks down? You go to a car mechanic. So where do you go if your relationship breaks up? Well, you come and see a divorce coach.
Let's go to a bar and drink away your sorrows.
Well, that happens a lot too.
It's probably, look, I'm sure it does. Where's the boundary within HR? Would you say if someone can see this is happening, but the person is not talking about it, they're clearly distracted, what would you suggest to people in terms of how to approach someone around this to go, look, is everything okay? I can see that something's not right.
Yeah, I think, you've got to be very careful in terms of that. But I think it's taking them into your office and say, look, I've just wanted to, and I'm sure, HR professionals do this regularly with their staff that they think that may be having issues, is actually just sit down and have a very, candid conversation and say to their workers, look, we are here for anything that you need, so please do share. There also needs to be some work around, because managers need to also be informed and educated in terms of how to deal with employees going through the process, or their team members as well. So that's a really important part of how you do deal with it and how you approach it and the right things to say. So that's a really important piece. But certainly, those in HR will be able to assess whether or not someone is coping at work. Has their behaviour changed? Are they looking like they're not really grooming themselves? Are they constantly breaking down all the time? Has their productivity decreased? And that's going to be, are they taking huge absences? Are they always on the phone, or seemingly being distracted? So it becomes very clear very quickly, particularly if people are going through a high conflict divorce, because that just adds another layer to it. It really does. We work with individuals who are going through high conflict situations and couples who are amicable.
Yeah. Because it's really a wellbeing thing, isn't it? I guess it's offering some sick leave time, or a leave of absence or something like that, or just to enable them to maybe get things together a little bit more, or to you know, if they've got the court or family court or whatever it may be, to go through those without feeling as if, you know, there's that added pressure from the workplace as well.
Yeah, because people will be worried they're going to lose their job. You know, they're going to, you know, they do get worried. And I think if people can, and that's what we coach people to be able to actually have conversations. You know, we write scripts for them, help them write scripts, you know, how to tell your partner you want to separate, how to tell the children, how to tell family and friends, how to tell work, you know, what's happening in their life, because people are really embarrassed about it. People feel like they've failed. You know, people feel like they have failed themselves, they've failed their partner, they thought they were going to be married for 60 years and their children. So it's got a really wide-reaching effect. And if you can have a team around them, you know, it's really important to have a counsellor or a psychologist, all of those things that I know are in place in a lot of corporates, but also specifically in relation to divorce and separation. You know, even if there's, you know, a time period of maybe even a week or two that people can use in terms of having some sort of leave specifically for divorce and separation, because look, you know, there's menstrual leave coming up, there's climate change leave.
Actually, that just went through. Where did that go through the other day?
Yes,
Spain or somewhere, I think.
Yes.
God, about time.
I know, exactly. So if people are, you know, and more than 50% of the population are separating and divorcing, this is a pertinent issue that affects everyone. Even if you haven't been through separation yourself, you know someone who's been through separation, your parents have been through separation, you're supporting someone who's going through separation. So no one is untouched by divorce and separation in some way. So, you know, for us, we are really committed to putting this program in place in corporates and ensuring that employees are able to stay on an even keel, have that sounding board, have that thinking partner that they can work with. You know, we have got programs from self-directed, free, complimentary activities right through to full-on, you know, executive coaching, successful settlements. So working with both couples, as I maintained, we can customize it to whatever people need. You know, we do a roadmap, you know, of what people need through the process and what are the outcomes that you need and how we're going to get there.
Yeah. And it's good that, you know, divorce and separation, is there still anything, I guess, not legally, around the difference in the de facto relationships? You know, have you discovered that some HR or some companies think, oh, well, you know, they haven't been together as long, or it's not a formalized, you know, is there any distinction there, or are we kind of over that?
I think we're over that. The de facto relationships, the Relationship Property Act applies after 3 years anyway, and kicks in earlier if you've had children together. But you know, generally, you know, I think people need help whether they've been in a relationship for 1 year or 15 years. You know, it's still going to be affecting their productivity at work. And, you know, we want to minimize all of that and, you know, and for them to be able to move through the process quickly, because on average, you know, it can take people 3 years to get through the divorce and separation process. Yeah.
You've had another relationship and finished that one by that time. You get people coming in and go, oh, yeah, you know, the divorce, and they're looking, you know, just to give the stats of, you know, the numbers of people separating and divorce, and, you know, literally, wow, there are actually plenty more fish out in the sea, because there's a whole lot of people out there getting divorced as well. We go meet up again. Success rate is not the right word, because actually sometimes the success is that amicable divorce and a separation. What is the ratio of people who come to you thinking they want to finish a relationship, and actually after a little bit of talk and counseling realize they were completely mistaken and they end up staying together?
Well, it's not a huge amount, but, you know, it does happen. Absolutely. So there has been cases where they're both sitting here, you know, and they realize that, well, actually, you know, we haven't left every stone unturned, and we do want to stay. You know, I say to clients, you need to leave no stone unturned before you decide to separate, because you're going to have regrets. But people do it. When people realize that, you know, someone's engaged with us, they go, well, actually, we can actually do it by ourselves. We can do it pro se. You know, we can actually sit around and work out, you know, either they're going to separate, or they're going to actually decide to stay together. Do a lot of referrals to counsellors and psychologists in terms of couples or individuals. And For us, as I said, we just want people to be happy, to have really fantastic relationships, and it's certainly not about divorcing, but that's the business that we're in. If people need support, we are there.
Yeah, and look, as we may have said at the start, the employment market is very, very tight at the moment, and these little key differences are the things that can not only retain staff but to attain staff as well. When people say, "Hey, I was with this particular company and they really were quite supportive when I went through a period of time," because people are now auditing. They always have that. They ring up someone who works for a company and says, "Hey, what are they like?" Well, they're really great. So this is particularly important at the moment, isn't it?
Oh, it's hugely important. And you know what? It's not going to be an issue that will ever go away. Relationships are always going to break up. Inevitably, there's always going to be people that are going to have differences that can't stay together. So, for us, we are very passionate about what we do. We've all been through divorce and separation ourselves. We have walked in everybody's shoes. We have been there where we have had zero productivity or very low productivity because our head is elsewhere. And, for us, it's simplifying the process and helping people divorce well.
Got a tip for, one thing that you see that really makes relationships work? You've seen a lot of relationships not work. There's no magic elixir, I'm sure. But, if someone said to you, what's the secret of the successful ones? Because we focus a lot on the ones that don't work. We never think often about the ones that really just keep chugging along.
Yep. One word: communication. Being upfront and honest, and having check-ins with each other, even on a sort of monthly basis, where things are at, how are you feeling about us, all of that, because a lot of parties lose that ability to be able to communicate with each other. We are used as intermediaries when people are going through divorce and separation because they just cannot even talk to each other. So communication, and one of the biggest thing is to treat each other the way you want to be treated. So it doesn't take a lot to treat each other with kindness and respect.
Same principles as HR, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Good communication and respect.
Exactly.
It's all tied up. It is. Marvelous. Thank you, Bridgette. A fascinating conversation. And as we say, part of that kind of overarching sense of what modern HR is. Bridgette Jackson, CEO of Equal Exes. What does the rest of your day have in store? A whole lot of people turning up saying, "God,
that's right,
help me out of this situation."
Absolutely. It's one after the other. Yeah. Yep. Lots of clients.
Well, go. Look, and who knows, you may have some more after people have listened to this, because it really is a time of reflection. So there we go. Thank you, Bridgette Jackson, CEO of Equal Exes. If you want to contact them, you can find the details. You can just Google them, go straight to the website and have a little bit of a chat, or have a chat to HRNZ. This is an ongoing series, to Radar's HR Chats, or HR Chats with Radar, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes I forget. If you have anything that you think similar to this that we should be having a talk about in these HR chats, then by all means let HRNZ know. It is a wide and fascinating field. Until next time, goodbye.